And we'll get into the idea that that's centering men in your daily life. You're in fact making your entire life about the men around you, which isn't very feminist at all.
Hi, and welcome to, or back to, my channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions about whatever catches my attention. I'm Kit, and today we're looking at a video from Amala Ekpunobi. This isn't feminism, you just hate men, with a thumbnail, this is ridiculous. This is also my first time hearing about microfeminism, and per Google, we are a bit late to the topic, but anyway, microfeminism is... Actually, let's just read the whole article. Quote, if you have ever intentionally addressed your female colleagues first during a meeting or shut down a guy trying to manspread on the subway, you may have been practicing microfeminism. Small but meaningful acts of uplifting women in male-dominated spaces. When I send an email, let's say to a CEO, and you have to copy their assistant for scheduling purposes, if the assistant is a female, I will always, in the email to line, enter their address before the CEO's, Ashley Cheney said in a viral TikTok post this year. That's my favorite form of microfeminism, she said. What's yours? Cheney did not invent the term, but with her video garnering thousands of comments and video responses of other people explaining how they go about promoting women's voices, she introduced the word to a new audience. I always call the dads first when the kids are sick and the moms for billing questions, one preschool worker wrote in response. I write real estate contracts and I always put the wife's name first, another respondee wrote. The husbands question it a lot even though it makes zero difference to the contract, just their ego. These acts might seem trivial to some, but experts say that little tricks can have a big impact. Cheney, the woman behind the viral TikTok, says she was inspired to talk about her acts of microfeminism after an upsetting day of dealing with a male coworker. I remember particularly thinking, God, there are these things that happen to me on a daily basis that drive me crazy. And I know in my head that I'm doing these little sorts of winks and nods to the women around me. I wonder if they notice, she said. The response, Cheney said, has been overwhelming. It is something that women, A, notice and just like me are also trying to do, which I love. And moreover, if they hadn't heard of it, they're now inspired and they're seeing tiny ways in which they can uplift women around them, she said. I think that people really resonate with that because it gives them something to do that's not going out to march or bring your bras or whatever. It's like, hey, these are things that I can do and that can actually affect change in a small way. While many of the comments were positive, Cheney said there was also a wave of mostly men who ridiculed and derided her stance, with some going so far as to say she should die. In the comments, I got people saying that I was a misandrist and that I was doing witchcraft, Cheney said. The first thing they attack is your physical appearance. So I got everything from fat, ugly, old to stupid and a dumb woman, she said. Honestly, it scared me so much. While the backlash Cheney received was frightening, she stopped posting online for weeks after the episode. Ultimately, it made her more secure in her beliefs. It has inspired me to identify more loudly and publicly as a feminist, she said. My entire platform is not dedicated to feminism, but I am being louder about it, especially as people have criticism or critiques of it. I'm like, okay, that means there is a need for a loud voice here. Research has shown that everyday instances of sexism affect women at all levels, including in matters of physical and mental health. Oh yeah, a few weeks ago I read an article about how sexism can cause changes to the brain, which is just... Anyway, back to the article. Microfeminist proponents hope to mitigate some of these effects in their own personal ways. Halima Kazim-Stojanovic, PhD, is an associate director of the Feminist Gender Sexuality Studies program at Stanford University. She says it's important to normalize addressing everyday gender biases in order to make bigger changes. When you start to adjust society's norms, then that has a lasting effect. That has a conscious and a subconscious effect, Kazim-Stojanovic said. She said that small things like changing male-centered language, for example, using guys as a catch-all term for people, are the kind of changes that are easy to make and will benefit everyone in the long term. Knowing that to keep things more neutral really kind of helps everybody because the patriarchy hasn't even helped masculinity, Kazim-Stojanovic said, noting that patriarchal expectations of manliness lead to strict limitation on how men can present themselves and express their emotions. Kazim-Stojanovic said that working against the patriarchy is as important now as ever before, especially in light of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade and restrictive abortion bans that have cropped up across the country in the years since. Despite these changes in the current political environment, Kazim-Stojanovic said that the virality of Cheney's TikTok videos gives her hope that the younger generations understand how important it is to fight for women's rights no matter the scale. I'm a mom of 2 girls, teenagers, and I see them engaging in social media. And I think this recent interest with microfeminism stems from a video on TikTok, which my girls are always on, she said. I find it interesting that little snippets of these long-held kind of feminist ways of thinking and being and embodying feminism have kind of come out in these modern multimedia little videos, which I find really interesting, which makes me happy to see, end quote. I see nothing about hating men in this, but I'm sure Amala will find something.
I had never heard of it. Turns out there's an entire world of these micro-feminists.
I'm not 100% sure, but I feel pretty confident that micro-feminists aren't a thing. Microfeminism is just a way to insert feminism into your daily life. It's more of an action. But anyway, Amala explains what microfeminism is, and
now we're going to get into these videos because women are luckily making videos on acts of microfeminism that you can bring into your daily life to equal the playing field. And we're going to see if that's exactly what they're achieving or if it's something else.
Is it just me, or is this a bit odd? But anyway, let's watch some TikToks.
Let's watch video number 1 on acts of microfeminism.
I've been making a list of acts of microfeminism to use in everyday life. You guys really love the first video, so let's do a part 2. When a man says, you should smile more, you say, you first, and then when they smile, you say, good boy, with a straight face, and walk away. When someone says something positive about a man, you say, not all men. When a man around you tells a joke or makes people laugh, turn to a friend, a woman obviously, and say, see, men can be funny sometimes. Implementing these words, mantrum, he-motional, and testerical. Testerical might be the winner here. Greedy.
This is so funny, guys. We're really getting the men back with this one and fighting the patriarchy with these acts of microfeminism. Plus, it's hilarious. Cue the forced laughter all throughout this video.
I don't understand the laughter, but considering the creator's name is left off the TikTok, for all we know, this is a satire account. Anyway, these seem more inflammatory than the examples given in the NPR article, and I'm not sure they're all that helpful because most men probably wouldn't get it, but does Amala really not know what they're referring to? Really? She's unfamiliar with men telling women they don't know to smile, calling them a good girl. She's unfamiliar with not all men. She's unfamiliar with men saying women can't be funny. She's unfamiliar with all the ways women and their concerns have been dismissed, saying women are just emotional or hysterical. Really? Mark me down as skeptical.
The forced laughter is really an indicator of where we are with this particular mindset. You have to be forcing this in your daily life. It is not natural. It's certainly not funny, and it's not amusing.
I like how Amala says the point while missing it. It's not natural and it's not funny. We live in a patriarchal society, and if we want to create change, we have to make ourselves do things opposite to what patriarchy has taught us is normal, like putting a woman's name first instead of a man's, calling the dad instead of the mom when a kid is sick, assuming a doctor is female instead of male, and so on.
But go off, sis. We're really getting the men back with this one.
It's not about getting the men back. Patriarchy isn't men, it's a system. And to change a system, you need to disrupt it. A good way to do that is to do things in a different way, to give people pause, make them reflect on what they expected you to say or do, maybe even consider if they had a reaction to, for example, seeing a woman's name first or assuming someone in a high power position is a woman. Anyway, Amala watches another video of whoever this person is and concludes,
this just seems more like a crash course on how to be the most insufferable person in the room rather than anything to do with feminism. Because if we really want to get into feminism, we should be talking about equality. And this is by no means a message of equality. It just seems like a sort of baseless attempt at trying to piss off the men around you.
So, does Amala think that when men do that, they're trying to piss off women? Also, we? Does Amala consider herself a feminist?
And I don't think that any of these things would actually work. I can't really see somebody being super upset by the things she's saying in this video, although that seems to be her intent, is to upset and offend the individual on the other end of this interaction. Now, if you want to call that micro-feminism, you can call it that, but it certainly has nothing to do with the feminist narrative. If anything, it's misandry. You want to bring down men, you're trying to demean them, you're trying to insult them in your daily life.
Okay, now, I don't know this woman, I don't know her motivations or what she's hoping to achieve or whatever, but the reason she's doing this is because this is how men have treated women. So she's turning around and suggesting women treat men the way men have treated women. And that's hating men? That's trying to insult them? I was just Amala, and anyone who agrees with her, reflect on why they feel that way. And seriously, does Amala get this upset about men saying these things to women? Or does she just accept it as the way things have always been?
And we'll get into the idea that that's centering men in your daily life. You're in fact making your entire life about the men around you, which isn't very feminist at all.
Actually, I agree with Amala on this one. This creator seems to be trying to figure out ways to treat men the way they treat women, which is certainly a tactic, whereas the creator in the NPR article was trying to uplift women. And at that, I'm just going to speed run through Amala's video real quick and see if she says anything else I have thoughts on before going back to Ashley Cheney.
Not being overly friendly during communication and not apologizing unless it's actually needed. You don't need an exclamation point or a smiley face in every message. Not praising men for doing the bare minimum or being overly grateful when they simply do their jobs. Using typically girly colors to highlight work and as backgrounds on slideshows. Signing up to lead sports events and not allowing any sport that excludes women or any gender. If it makes you feel like you're doing something, ladies, sure.
I think those are actually great ways to interrupt the status quo on a daily basis. Not every action needs to be big or flashy. Just making people think about why they do something the way they do can be a huge start. I am curious as to why Amala cares if she thinks men won't notice, or if they do, they won't be bothered, and she thinks these women are wasting their time and devoting too much of it to men, so if it's nothing, why bother?
Now, if somebody's truly doing something wrong within the workplace or any other space you're in as a woman, hopefully you would apply your rules equally and you would go after both men and women for the things that they're doing, because women are not exempt from bad behavior by virtue of being women. And that seems to be the through line of a lot of these videos, that women should just be pedestalized and treated like princesses all throughout life, and men need to be demeaned and brought down and denigrated because patriarchy.
Oh, that is so dishonest. There was nothing in any of these videos that said or even hinted at the idea that women are perfect angels that never do anything wrong. Please. Also, Amala concludes by saying that these women have clearly never been oppressed, and she would like a woman in Iran to watch these videos. And I just want to read some comments from a recent post on the Ask Feminist subreddit. Not in the US, but what is being unearthed about online chats where men give tips and tricks on how to drug and rape the women/girls in their lives, as well as selling the drugs to do so, is scary. Is what I'm speaking about what Rape University is? I haven't heard that name ascribed to it. So apologies if I'm just spewing back stuff that you already know. I'm sure we all knew deep in our bones that Giselle Pelicot was not a one-off, and to have our suspicions confirmed is bleak. A man in the UK was doing the same thing. Doctors have been doing this. Pediatricians have been doing this. We've got people telling us feminism has gone too far, or asking us, what do women in the West need to be liberated from? I despair. I want to scream into a pillow. I want to rip out my hair. OMG and all the signal groups where men dox their exes and women in their lives, post revenge porn and AI-generated porn of them, I'm tired. Plus schoolboys creating deepfakes of their peers and their teachers, marital rape not being illegal globally, rape being the biggest tactic of war, women in parts of the world being raped before they are executed so they don't go to heaven, 3 boys shoving rocks in a girl's mouth and taking turns raping her, the boys' families defending the boys. I am disturbed by how many boys and men heavily participate in rape culture, as well as the attempts by men, even quote, good men, to gaslight us into thinking rape culture isn't real, or that it's overstated, or it's only a few bad eggs. Like, OMFG, can we just fucking acknowledge this hellscape? Editing kit, because just hearing this shit again, no. What the fuck is this? Women in oppressive countries would tell you to suck it up because their oppression is worse. Surely you can put up with light oppression, even though things can always get worse. Just passively wait for it to become bad enough that, what? Wait for it to be bad enough that even conservatives think it's gone too far? What is this? Is Amala a lazy thinker, or is she just grifting? I suppose both is possible, and conservatives do bank on their audiences not thinking through what they're saying. This is just stupid and insulting. Insulting to women under oppressive regimes because Amala is using them to tell other women their oppression isn't that bad. Which, by the way, helps no one. Amala doesn't care about women anywhere. She just wants to shut down the conversation in her own country. This is disgusting. Oppression, sexism, misogyny is not unique to one country. It is global, and it takes many forms. And Amala doesn't care. She's just using other countries have it worse to invalidate feminism in her own. And no, Americans should not rush into other countries and tell them what's what. We have done that, it didn't work, and it's also insulting. Feminists in other countries are strong, brave, and they know what they're doing. They don't need strangers to show them how it's done. That American hubris. So this is the TikTok from the NPR article.
My favorite form of microfeminism is that when I send an email, let's say to a CEO, and you have to copy their assistant for scheduling purposes. If the assistant is a female, I will always in the email to line, I will always enter their email address before the CEO's. So if the CEO was Bob and the assistant is a female named Jane, I'm always going to put the to line Jane and then the CEO. Nobody probably notices, but it makes me feel like I see you. Another thing that I do kind of along the same lines is if I'm emailing a team, I will always address the woman first in the actual email. So I'll be like, hey, Kathy and Joe. I'm having a hard time coming with names. Anyway, that's my favorite form of microfeminism. What's yours?
Something Amala seems to miss is that it's literally called microfeminism. It's something small you can do in your daily life. Anyway, here are some responses to Ashley Cheney's post. Mine is at the preschool I work at. I always call the dads first when kids are sick and the moms for building questions. If someone tells me they saw their doctor, specialist, lawyer, other smart person type role, I ask, what did she say? I address my wedding invitations as Mrs. and Mr. Jane Smith. When I put our school events on the huge school calendar in the hallway, I always list girls' sports first. I work in a school. After I got married, everyone asked what my new name would be. When I said I was still Miss Johnson, they'd make a face and I'd always reply, oh, he didn't change his name either. Whenever there is a group playlist going at work, I make a point to add songs from female artists. I always, when introducing a friend's wife, will say Julie, John's wife, as she is Julie first, second his wife. I have started to correct maiden name to birth name. Personally, I started including female musicians and authors onto my media lists, which are now mostly female as a result, and I make it a point to shop at women-owned businesses. So I would urge Amala, as well as anyone curious and or interested, to read Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez if they wonder why such seemingly small things matter. It doesn't talk about everything, but it is a good example of why how we think about, or don't think about, women can affect the daily things in life like our commute to the big things like heart attacks. I will also include a link to The New Age of Sexism by Laura Bates, which discusses how women and girls are affected by AI and other emerging technologies. There are some other books, articles, videos I want to recommend because honestly, you can't just start and stop here. I am not that vain, and even if I was, that would not be a good idea. But as I'm literally the day I'm filming this, I was verified by bookshop.org, so by the time you see this video, I should have a bookshop link below. And I also want to create a website, but that will have to wait until I have a job again. And that's it for this video. My socials and Patreon are linked below, along with sources and resources. I would like to thank everyone for watching through to the end, and of course, I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons. Have a wonderful day. Please share your, this is tough for my jaw, micro feminisms below, and I'll see you in the next one.